Okay, we're back, and we had a little glitch there for some reason. The stream did not come on, in a timely manner, and so we're kind of restarting here. And I'd like to thank everyone who's here for being here, and I'd like to remind people that we have our TeslaTech VODs for sale, and if you go to our TeslaTech.info website and you click on that, it will bring up the how-to page, and there you can order the videos on demand, and you can also get our t-shirts, which are posted down here too. Okay, and I also want to encourage people to go to the Biomed Expo here in Las Vegas, October 17th at the 20 at the Alexis Park Resort. The contact phone is for the conference is on there. You can, if you're watching a replay, you can set it on pause and write this down if you need it. And I'd like to also let you know they're having it all streams. If you can't make it, they're doing a live stream too for only $99. So I encourage you to. I'd rather see you show up down there because there's nothing that can take the place of an in-person event. And last but not least, I'd like to encourage people to sign up for our YouTube membership. It's $9.99 a month, and we have over 1,500 videos available. Or you could just subscribe for free. We have a couple hundred videos available that way. Our most controversial ones are pretty much kept behind a paywall because it kind of keeps the censors out, But they do hit you anyway. In fact, we got hit this week. But all those DVDs are available at TeslaTech.info. And if you like what we're doing here at Steve's Place, be sure to go in there and give us a thumbs up, especially, if you like our speaker of the day. And right now, without further ado, let me introduce you to Tom Martin. He's a self-made inventor here. So I want to tell you a little bit about yourself, Tom.
Sure. Thanks, Steve, and thanks for having me today. My name is Tom Martens, and I live in Rock Island, Illinois, and my invention is the Nitric Oxide Exchange Chamber. The patented name is the pre-combustion Nitric Oxide Exchange Chamber. And what it does, it introduces nitric oxide and hydrocarbons through a magnetic field, which attracts more oxygen to the hydrocarbons into the air intake of what I have, which is a 2017 Ford Fusion. And through 3 days of testing, it did show that it got rid of all of the hydrocarbons, all the nitric oxide, all the carbon monoxide, reduced the carbon dioxide from 12% to 8%, and more oxygen was coming out of the exhaust than going in.
Okay, and let me throw up the prototype right there. And do you want to explain a little bit about what we're seeing?
Sure. What you're seeing there is about 5 months of nights and weekends worth of work trying to get spark plugs to spark outside of a car. So it's like a little mini ignition system there. You see the drill there, that's turning the distributor cap, which is a 8-cylinder distributor cap. You got the 8 plugs going from that to the spark plugs on the tube there. And then all the white wires you see are the ground wires because the ignition system is all grounded, so to make it work. And then you got wires going, right below the drill is the 12-volt power source. That would be the battery in the car. But for all the testing, we had to have something that was permanently on because batteries kept dying on our first testing that we did. And so that provides the power to make the spark plug spark. And then the black little rectangle there before the tube is a blower. Since this cannot be connected directly into the air intake, I had to lift the air box off. And you'll see in the next picture where the tube comes out, goes through the magnets, that I just stuck in right on top of the air filter up inside the air box tube going to the engine. And when you power it up and you turn the drill, the spark plugs spark. They make the nitric oxide and hydrocarbons that is blown gently through that tube. to the air intake. The car breathes it in, and better combustion happens. That's why I had the results that I did.
Okay, and there's the front of the tube.
Yep, those are the GMX magnets. They work on fuel, they work on air, and they work on solving hard water problems, actually. That's the amazing thing about them. And I had tested this without the magnets, and I did get results. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but I didn't realize it had created hydrocarbons, and hydrocarbons love going through magnetic fields because it attracts more oxygen. And this is how I got the best results. And if in the future, what I would like to do is put those GMX magnets on my fuel line and test it just like you see here. And then I can get some even better results on lowering the carbon dioxide and getting more oxygen out of the exhaust.
Okay, I'd like to go back to the beginning again, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And then you have like the black thing on the upper left, and that is your blower.
That little black thing is it's like an air mattress blower.
Okay.
And it's got a high and a low. And I just put it on the low, so it would gently blow the air through that tube to get the gas out of there and blow it into the air intake. Because when you lift the air box off, it's just sucking air anywhere, and it would never just suck the air out of the tube like in a car, which is in the third video picture you'll show, which is the patented concept, which will show how that works, in the concept of when it's inside the car, because you wouldn't need 75% of what you see there inside a car, because everything else is already in there.
So then you have this pipe here, and you have all these spark plugs in there, right?
Correct.
And it's just sparking the air as it goes through there?
Correct.
Okay. And is there any reason why you have to have 8 of them, or however many?
Well, I didn't know how much one spark plug would make, so I started with 8. I figured 8 should make something, and it made 24 parts per million. Is what I found out with the tester that I rented. It was a $15,000 Testo 350 that I rented, and it put out 24 parts per million, just sitting there static. And of course that increased without the air moving, but I did it, just to see where it would kind of plateau before it started rising again, and that's what I got.
Okay, and so you have what is that, a wire that comes up on the other side on the bottom of this thing?
That's the white wire that goes to everything, and that's the ground wire.
Okay.
I took I had to get 3 different fan type extension cords, strip off everything, get rid of the power lines, and just use the ground line and put clips on it so I could clip it onto everything to ground it to make it spark.
And then that clear plastic thing on the far right on the output, that's just a connection?
That's just the hose connection right there, so that way it doesn't kink up right there. And it's just one I had sitting around that I just cut off to use, and it's just a good handle to hold on to screw it on with. That's all that is.
Okay. And so then you have your 3 magnets. And
Yep.
then that black thing down, that's what, ignition coil down there?
On the bottom, yes, that's the ignition coil and ignition module in that area. Yes.
Okay. And so here's your this is your patent, right?
Yeah, that's the concept of what it will look like inside the car. There's the battery. The 14 is like the ignition. You see it goes right into the air intake is right there, and then my NOEC would be right after that, and then that would go right into the air intake in a proper connection, so that way it would actually suck the air through the air filter through there and introduce it into the combustion process.
And then this, like 24, where 24 is at the end, that goes to your air intake on your regular car?
That would go right before combustion on that air intake pathway.
Okay.
As long as it's anywhere past, the air filter, so that way you're not introducing dirty air in there, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you could just actually just have a little connector to screw it on there, so that would be airtight, so that way it would suck the air through, and that's where that goes.
So actually, your car would then have your regular ignition system, and this is just additional. So
Yeah, all that would fit underneath the hood with hardly any modification.
So have you been able to do any regular field testing or just basically bench testing?
It was I couldn't drive with this with the hood up and drive down the street with this thing on it. It actually ran very rough when I was doing all my testing because the car didn't know what to do with all that extra fuel coming through the air. But the numbers kept getting better the more rough it ran. And eventually it did knock the car out on the second day because it didn't know what to do with all that extra fuel coming in. And it did start back up after I turned everything off and took everything and started back up. And when I took it to AutoZone and they did their scanner on it, it was complaining about too much fuel was the error code. The computer just couldn't keep up with it, and you'd have to actually set the computer from the factory or at the dealership if they put this in, if they retrofit it, to accept this new fuel parameter, which it's not used to.
And you've worked with the GEAT before. So how does this compare with GEAT?
Well, GEAT fuel reformers use the exhaust and use that for the fuel. This is just using straight air and introducing nitric oxide and hydrocarbons, fresh nitrocarbons and fresh nitric oxide. I don't know what exactly the GEAT is actually using. I don't think there's any nitric oxide in there. I know there are hydrocarbons that don't get burnt during regular combustion, but with the results that I got, if you put this on the car, you wouldn't have any nitric oxide or hydrocarbons to use in a GEAT fuel reformer because there'd be nothing in there anymore to combust.
Well, I know, like with GEAT, I rode with Paul when he drove down from Blaine, Washington. I rode with him down there, and you're going up and down hills, and he always had a fiddle with his what he called the AMU, air mixture unit, and he was constantly fiddling with that. He's driving down the road, So I'm wondering on this here. I guess you'd probably have to. The computer could probably handle it if you reset the parameters on the computer, huh?
Yes, the GEAT fuel reformer. I actually, this is about 20 years ago now. I actually downloaded Mr. Pantone's instructions that he was giving out, and I built a little GEAT fuel reformer for my lawnmower, and it actually did work. But you have to let it warm up, and like you said, you kind of have to fiddle with it because you are introducing something into the air intake that it's not used to, and if you get it too rich, it doesn't want to run right, and if you don't put enough in there, of course, you're not getting the results you want to see. So it is pretty finicky. Yeah, this just takes fresh air and introduces the new gases. Because my theory was that I didn't know it was going to make hydrocarbons. But I Googled on how to make nitric oxide, and the first I came up with was a lightning strike. And then, of course, I thought about, well, I can't make a lightning strike, but the easiest thing to do would be to use a spark plug because that makes little mini sparks. I just didn't know how much it would make, and it took a little bit of investigating to find out how I could test it. And I found this place that I could rent a flue meter. They use this on natural gas burners, actually. And I had to pay extra to get all of the regular car exhaust emissions checks on it because it's not programmed for that normally. But they said it would work, and it did mostly. But like I said, sometimes it would hiccup and give me a 0 number, which is not reading. But when I called about that, when it gave me negative numbers, they said the negative numbers were actually a 0. That meant it was reading. It just didn't like 0, but the actual 0 numbers mean it was having trouble reading, and it couldn't give you a number. So that was kind of a frustrating thing about the whole deal. That's why I had to do 3 days worth of testing because I'd run a test and it wouldn't read right, and I had to take the probe out and put it back in, and It was, it was a big ordeal and a lot of time, and that's why I said I ran out of time, to rent it, and because it was over a Memorial Day weekend in 2021. They were really good about letting me have it for longer than what I had originally rented it for because of the holiday weekend. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, that's about how it works.
So what's your plans to go on from here, moving forward?
Well, luckily, my uncles helped out on getting my patent, and the place that I found to get my patent works on car patents all the time. And they had a section of their business. They actually do promotion. So all the year of 2023 was every quarter was putting out to all the car manufacturers, anything that had to do with combustion. This actually got put out to 200-300 companies all across the world. And he told me that nothing's going to happen for a minimum of 3 years, and it could be that 3 to 5 year periods when you might see something, because the small companies work faster than the bigger companies. So I'm in that third year now, so this is when I should start seeing something as far as interest on licensing and or buying my patent.
Have you looked into using this on a small engine?
Well, the only testing I did was on my car. I don't have a way right now to retrofit anything right now to just have it like you see here.
Well, you see, like one of the things about Paul's patents on his device, he patented anything that has to do with combustion, and that means like including his little furnace there, which is unique. And that furnace concept he has can also be used in a power plant, like the coal power plants, okay, if you upscale it. And I'm just wondering if this would be similar to where it'd be viable on anything that uses combustion.
Well, that's the idea, because anytime you introduce nitric oxide to a pre-combustion, it's going to have better combustion, because that's what nitric oxide does. Mm-hmm. And that's what really gave me the idea when I was searching how to make nitric oxide. That was a sentence that I saw as a preview was, during combustion, nitric oxide is created and helps with combustion. And of course, my next thought was, what happens if you introduce nitric oxide before combustion? And that's what really got me started.
How does this affect the catalytic converter?
That's a good question. I don't think you would need a catalytic converter anymore with the exhaust coming out after this. That's another thing I would need to have tested. But if 1 parts per million of hydrocarbons are coming out and more oxygen coming out, I'm pretty sure you can actually breathe this air coming out. So I don't think you would need catalytic converters anymore.
So have you been able to take and get the exhaust analyzed?
Just what I did with my testing. That was the Testo 350 that I used. That was testing. That's where I got all my results for the exhaust.
Okay. So I'm kind of reaching out to the audience here to see if they have any questions out here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I don't see any questions per se yet, but has anyone contacted you at all, or just besides your attorney, or on this?
Yeah. So far, no one has shown any interest. And like I mentioned earlier, he said it's going to be a minimum of 3 to 5 years before you'll hear anything. And like I said, I'm just in that 3-year window right now, so things should start happening, and hopefully sooner than later.
Well, do you have plans to take and convert a regular car that you could take around to conferences on that? To show?
Around where I live, we don't have TeslaTech like you have, and that's why I was hoping to bring it to TeslaTech so you could have your guys test it and get secondary confirmation.
Yeah, but
that way, other people in that field could see it and see it for themselves.
But what I'm saying is, right now, this looks like it's breadboarded basically, okay, and it's not. You don't have like a car convert over to actually using this on a regular basis? Like, what would it take to do that?
Well, if you could teach the computer to accept it, I suppose, it wouldn't be too hard to retrofit a car. I mean, what you see in those pictures costs less than $750 to make, from scratch, off the shelf parts. There's nothing fancy there, because I wanted to make it easy, and so I just don't have the funds to take a regular car to do that kind of retrofit and be able to take it anywhere and have them set the computer up to accept that.
Yeah. So how much do you think you would need to do this? Or would you even be interested in doing this?
Oh, I would love to get this put in the car and have somebody drive it for 10, 15,000 miles and watch, all the good stuff happen. I'm thinking it might cost between, $5,000 and $10,000 to, for the first time, and for the only time, for the first time before I started, doing mass production, somewhere in there, to get a car dealer, pay them to do it, because I know they wouldn't do it for free, and have it, because every time you step on the gas, it's, it's going to make more spark and more NOEC product, which means you're going to have to adjust, the fuel ratio to accept that. So, the computer would have to be able to do that. I'm sure they can do it too, because it's not that hard.
Yeah, what you need is a good old backyard mechanic. You just expand your social circle there, I just can't afford to use garages myself, unless I am fortunate to have a lot of my friends who are proficient in cars and that, and I'm sure they're watching right now, So
I'm ready if they're willing.
Anyway, here's a question: what Gauss strength of magnets do you use?
The magnets are strontium ferrite magnets, and there's 3 of them there. I would have to actually look up and tell you what Gauss they are, but they are very powerful magnets.
Okay. And then they say just reprogram the car's computer, but a lot of times it's easier said than done.
Yeah, well, in my car, it shut down because it didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, it's not that easy and I didn't have any tools to do it myself to get into the car. Those things cost $5,000 or $10,000.
Yeah. Unless, a backyard mechanic that's well equipped.
Yeah.
So, and like I say, I'm very fortunate, and I think, if you're to come to the conference, that would be the hot ticket if you actually had a regular engine hooked up to this. So you probably need to buy an engine. Or get a scrap one. I used to have an engine sitting in my shop at one point. But times change, how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you did get one, up and running like that, you could take it to different conferences. You need an angel investor. But it'd be good to go to a place like, I don't know, up in Wisconsin, they have that air show. They're the week before my show. And I can't remember the name of it. That's what happens when your memory starts going when you get old. But because if this works on cars, I'm sure it would work on planes.
Sure.
Planes, and I'd be interested in seeing how it works on turbines.
Well, just think how well we would work on a rocket ship for Elon Musk. How much extra thrust he would get. Those Raptor engines.
Well, the thing with the rockets, we're trying to get away from rockets around here. We're here for anti-gravity.
Well, in the meantime, this would be a good bridge till we build out the infrastructure for electric cars and get all these small modular reactors built to power everything.
Yeah.
This is a good bridge.
Here you go. In the future, do you think you will use this system, perhaps with modifications to power homes and buildings?
Well, it's not a power source. All it's doing is helping with better combustion. Now, I suppose you could put it on a furnace, and put it on the ignition system on a furnace and introduce it, with the natural gas. I suppose you could do it that way, but it would not power a home per se.
Okay, so I'd like to point out something here a lot of people probably aren't aware of, but like when we were working with magnetic motors, okay, we use spark plugs, okay, to collapse the magnetic field, because what you have a situation where you're trying to attract, you have magnets attract each other, then just before they lock, you want to have that collapse and the magnet to go past that to where it would actually repel, okay? And what you could use is a spark plug, okay, to collapse that field, and it takes time and everything, but a lot of people aren't aware, though, that spark will collapse a magnetic field, That's just a point of information, But
well, anytime you have an electrical field, that creates a magnetic field, right?
I don't know if it necessarily creates that. It's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? So, and but I think that this would have a future, because for one, in some ways this is simpler than a geat. In that a geat you have to have the bubbler, and you're pulling the fuel through the bubbler, and you're taking the fuel, and you're putting it in this chamber where the a natural plasma comes in, and it kind of like twists all the energy out of it, and breaks everything up into its basic elements, and that's what comes out of the reactor in a geat, and that's what ends up going in your engine.
The plasma chamber, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A reaction chamber, whatever. But this gets rid of the bubbler part, because you're not bubbling any fuel through whatsoever. You're not even messing with it. So in some respects, this is a lot cleaner method. Okay. And the other thing is, because you don't have an intake line going through, or the exhaust going through fuel, okay, like EAT does, they'll like it a lot better on the automotive side. It's a lot safer.
There's no moving parts, and the spark plug should last the lifetime of the car because they're not dealing with combustion anymore.
And and I just wonder I'm just wondering if you really need to have any, like you had it tied to a distributor cap, if you really need the distributor cap,
Well, in the car, they don't have a distributor cap anymore. They have the little cones that fit on top that make it spark. It would just have to be hooked into that system. But that, just like I said, this is just a concept that it would have to be hooked into the electrical system to provide the 12 volts.
And on your drawing there, what's that 16? Is that just an air intake?
Yeah, that's the air filter. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think this be kind of interesting, You need to watch out.
As I was making this, I wanted to make it as simple as possible, so that because it's all off-the-shelf parts, and so it wouldn't cost that much to retrofit a car once they get the engineering figured out of how to plug it in and everything. It'd be less than $1,000.
Yeah. I'm glad you got a patent on it, because these auto companies are always trying to rip people off. A lot of them.
Luckily, I had some really great uncles that have done well for themselves, and they made a huge difference for me in making it happen.
Yeah, a lot of people couldn't afford it, and what you got to do is make it into like a trade secret to a lot of this, but you got to give out so much so people can see that does work.
Yeah, well, once I knew it made sparks, then I knew I had something, and that's what led me down this path. So yeah, once I knew it made sparks, I was like, ooh, I better make sure I get this protected because I don't want anybody snagging it and get it out there before I do.
Well, I would dare say with this, you could eliminate the catalytic converter, and just that change, all, it would really revolutionize the cost of building an engine. I mean, right out here,
those precious metals cost a lot of money.
Yeah, and if you're in the wrong neighborhood, or if you park in the wrong place, and someone comes and steals your catalytic converter, which has been an epidemic of that out west here, you're screwed, because those catalytic converters are not exactly cheap.
No.
I'm almost thinking, gee, this would probably be good to put on my truck. I have a 97 F-150, and I probably need to replace my catalytic converter. It's a 97, and I know I need to do the exhaust, but yeah.
Once Ford or Toyota or Chevy or any of those places give me a call, they're going to be doing all those kind of tests with catalytic converters, without catalytic converters, adding more than 24 parts per million there, put 100 parts per million, see what that does, putting the GMX on the fuel line too and testing it, getting those results. Yeah, once we get it going, they're going to find out just how good this thing really works.
Well, what you need to do is get yourself a cranker, to use to work on. Unfortunately, back in 2008, Cash for Clunkers program took a lot of good research material off the road. It kind of worked to my benefit because they were selling the trucks so cheap, the new ones, that one of my benefactors donated his pickup truck to me, and went and got himself a new one. But he did also tell me, though, that he kind of liked the old ones, like the one he gave me, because it just seemed sturdy. Trucks back then were built to last.
There you go.
Yeah.
They have a much more simpler engine setup too.
Well, here's the ammo car. She says, I hate to break it to you, but they're not going to call you. Well, I don't know. I'm ever hopeful myself.
Well, if those car companies are really honest, because they say they want to help with carbon dioxide emissions and saving the planet, the real greenhouse gases is what gets rid of. So, if they're going to put their money where their mouth is, they'll do it.
Yeah, and she thinks that they're too vested with the oil companies, but that's starting to change too, because this here, though, isn't really you're not peddling as a energy saving device. This is a pollution reducer.
Yep, you can burn as much oil as you want, so the oil companies should be interested in this too.
Yeah, and I would think, well, I know in California they're getting rid of all the small engines, and I think that's where this could, if you figure a way to modify it for a small engine like that, that would be the hot ticket,
Sure.
Because one small engine produces the equivalent of at least 20 to 30 cars, or more these days.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of, we used to have a member, I don't know if he's still alive, though. He worked for a car company, and that's why he come is to meet people like you, who had ideas like this, But,
well, hopefully, one of your people watching or listening hears and sees about this and goes, yeah, that'd be something I'd like to check out and do more with, because I'm willing if they're able.
Yeah. And so how would people contact you?
Well, I have my email address right there under my title there, right there. But you can call or text me at 309-235-3948. It's about almost 8:45 right now my time. I'm in the Central Time Zone, so don't call or text too late, please.
Yeah. So
and I still work during the day, so I might not be able to answer the phone or answer anything during the day because I'm at work. So after 4 o'clock is usually best. That's Central Time.
I'm going to write this in the comments here. Thomas, Marteens. Thomas
Martens.
Thomas Martens at
sbcglobal.net.
global.net. Okay, let me put that in the comment. For those who'd like to send an email, there it is, Thomas Martens at sbcglobal.net. And what was your phone number that you want them to call if they called?
309-235-3948.
235-3948?
Yep.
And keep in mind that this is Central Time Zone, so please don't call at 3 in the morning.
Well, good thing is I have my phone on Do Not Disturb that time of the morning. They can still try, but I won't hear it.
And use the email. You make an attempt to answer. And
yeah, I'm not trying to hide anything. It worked better than I thought it would. I had no idea what it was going to do, so I'm here just to let you know that it does work, and it did really well, which really surprised me. So if people are out there and they're worried about climate change and they're worried about global warming, this gets rid of all those gases that create global warming, and you can breathe the exhaust now. You can't kill yourself with carbon monoxide anymore. So that's the best part about it.
Well, I'd like to put a disclaimer here that you experiment with things like that at your own risk. I am not responsible. I would recommend, like the exhaust on the Geek device I had, you could pretty much breathe it. It smelled a lot different than what a normal exhaust does because of the fact that it got rid of like the carbon monoxides and the carbon dioxides, and the hydrocarbons were very, very minimal. In the what they call that that range where you can't tell, error range. So I know this kind of technology works. Okay. And I know that we can have a combustion, without the all the pollutants and that. It's possible.
Yeah, this could be one of the biggest changes to combustion in 100 years.
Yeah, and I can see where I would be surprised if an airline company didn't get hold of you, because you still have a lot of piston planes, But even so, this would probably work on a turbine, and
yeah. All you gotta do is introduce that gas right before combustion, and it works.
And I mean, we're even looking at locomotives,
Yeah, anything that has combustion.
It'd be interesting to see what effect it would have to do, like, with a diesel engine. Like, does it get rid of the fumes? I mean,
I haven't tested it with a diesel yet, but they do use combustion, so I imagine it would have the same effect. Of course, like I said, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and even there, you're looking at, the railroads, be a great thing.
Yeah. Now, the funny part would be if we got rid of that diesel smell that smells so good. If we got rid of that, people would get angry.
I don't know. Man, that can be kind of slightly addictive. I used to when I was in the Army,
Yeah.
and ride around on the tracks, and you know, and in the wintertime, you want to kind of be in the exhaust stream because it's warm, you know. But then, you know, you're breathing all that crap in here, the carbon monoxide and the diesel smell, you know, and you just, there's something about smelling diesel, you know.
There's something about diesel. It smells, yeah.
You know. And if you ever watched the movie, The Bridge Over Remagen, and they have these tanks, these tracks racing across, you know, the countryside there, and I can almost smell the diesel just from the sound of the tracks, you know. That, you know.
Yeah, one thing I thought of, you were talking about airplanes could use this. I'm pretty sure you'd have to put more than 24 parts per million into that air intake. So that way it would have the same effect. It might be 2,400 parts per million, you know, but, you know, we'd have to, we could figure that out.
There you go. Diesel is Steve's cologne in the Army. Yeah, after you was done shaving, I was going to get some out and just slap it on your face, you know, and
yeah.
There's something about diesel, you know, and heavy equipment. Well, and heavy equipment, because, you know, I grew up around heavy equipment, you know, and my stepdad, he used to work in that quarry, you know, up in just outside of Kankakee. In fact, if you've seen the movie Chain Reaction with Keanu Reeves. Yeah. I was watching that. It's like deja vu, because when I was a kid, my dad worked there. My brother works there now.
I love that movie.
Yeah, my brother works there now. And there's one scene where Keanu Reeves is, you know, taking these blueprints and he's rolling them out on the copier there, and the phone rings and he jumps through his skin. You know, I knew who's on the other side of that line. That was my brother.
Really?
He caught it by mistake. The shop was supposed to have been closed for the shooting, you know. And then that last shot there, you know, the final thing where everything's blowing up, that was a year's worth of explosives they used on blowing out the north wall there, you know. It took them a year to clean that up. But yeah.
I bet. That was a lot of earth they had to move.
Yeah. Well, they just decided to blow it off, get the good scenery out of it.
Sure.
And then just go in and clean it up later, you know, because they needed to do it anyway. You know. Yeah. So yeah. A small world. So, and hopefully you can make it down to the conference next year. You know.
Send me an invitation and I'll be there.
Well, I don't send an invitation. You got to send an abstract to me, you know, and he kind of already did that. And then what I'll do is when I get through there, I go through and I figure out how things fit in, you know.
Sure.
And, we've already started working on trying to get the conference site locked down. The price is going to go up. We'll be charging $450 this year, and for those who sign up when we first come out with the new price, we'll offer a 50% discount for 1 month and 1 month only. You know, so now's your chance to get in cheap. You know, for those who are listening. And also on the vendor tables, we're going to be raising those rates up, you know, and so people want to get involved right now, get hold of me, you know, you get signed up now. We'll be putting together a sign-up page here pretty shortly, but they're going to be raising the rates, you know, pretty steeply on everything. But still, despite that, if I get the rates I want for the hotel, will still be the lowest price conference in the country, you know, possibly even the world, you know. So, and we need people to come to the conference. And we'll probably do a live stream again this year. I just need people to go ahead and continue getting the live stream from this year, you know. And a live stream is everything, I mean, because Karen and Jason, they get out there between speakers, and they're interviewing people on the side, you know, so there's a lot more material in the live stream that you're not going to be able to get, you know, if you just buy the DVDs. And people do buy both because the live stream is great and everything, but sometimes things change, and it's nice to have that DVD, you know. So, so I encourage people, hey, you can do both, But the live stream is great for people who don't have the storage space it takes, to keep all these DVDs and stuff. And
Sure.
and you don't know where you're going to find yourself. You can find yourself, well, at your friend's house. They want to show them something, but you don't have your DVD or your DVD player with you. So you can just pull them up on your phone there, and then you can watch the video.
Yep.
Just like tonight's show, if for those of you who missed the good stuff, you can go back and watch it, and on your phone in the middle of nowhere. I'm sure there's some young whippersnappers in the middle of Ukraine. They're in those trenches even watching it. That's how pervasive the internet has gotten.
Well, now that you have a picture of my invention out there, someone else can build it now and test it for themselves.
But what we would like to do is, if you do want to work on it, get hold of Tom, because Tom has a lot of insight, because he's been working with this type of combustion for, 20, 30 years?
I work on electric motors, not car motors.
Yeah, but you've been working with GEET for how many years?
Well, I found out about 20 years ago.
So
and
yeah.
then like I said, I put it on my lawnmower, the one that I was able to download and build, and it did work, but it was bigger than the lawnmower, and I had a fence, and I couldn't mow like I wanted to, so I ended up taking it off. And I still have it in my garage right now. It's still sitting there. So I knew about that during my invention process. I know Malcolm Bendall has a version of the GEET fuel reformer in his thing, and I'm really curious. He hasn't really said, besides the plasmoids, what is in his Brown's gas that they're creating. I wonder if it is nitric oxide and hydrocarbons along with that, like I'm creating.
It could be, and I have all the videos. He has like 6 hours worth a video I'll be putting up here as soon as I get this 2001 Global Science Conference uploaded. I'll be uploading Malcolm's videos from last year he did at my conference, and if you remember, you'll be able to see those for like $9.99 a month, and like I said, there'll be at least 6 hours worth on that. You can, if you go to the HowTube site, I think they have those for sale up there still from last year. And
speaking of HowTube, and it's actually on YouTube too, I do have another invention. It's called the Great Pyramid of Giza ram pump theory. And if you type that in your search for Google and put my name in there, my theory is that the Great Pyramid of Giza was a ram pump. And I built a rough 1/1000th scale version of the inside of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And it actually works.
And you have a working model of that, or?
I do. I built it, and I got videos up on YouTube and HowTube now.
Oh, you should bring that to the conference. We're interested in that stuff too.
I wouldn't have enough room in my car for all this stuff. I'd have to rent a van.
Well, now's a good time to get yourself a diesel and
yeah, drive it down there with it on there, right? Have an engineer sitting next to me and running the computer to change everything.
Well, you just got to train your car computer, and it's easier said than done, And
when you mess the computer on a car, if you don't have the right equipment, you can really mess things up, and they'll never run right again. I got to go to work on Monday, so I can't do stuff like that.
Yeah, we don't use the family car for that. That's how come we get clunkers, and you do that, And I have some friends who, actually, the car I'm driving, he completely tore it apart and rebuilt it before he gave it to me, wanted to make sure it worked, So I don't say it will never run again. You just got to take in, yeah, I can say get the right mechanics.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've even had a transmission we had to get out of a junkyard, and one of my friends, he rebuilt it for me, from scratch, practically. It was so bad, in such a bad condition, but I needed a transmission. They don't transmissions don't handle running them through a flood too well. You know, uh, I've done that twice. Had a transmission go underwater, for whatever reason.
Yeah, the cars don't like water.
Not like that. Not that much water. Yeah. And I had to replace it. In both instances, I replaced it. The old transmission.
Sure.
But replacing a transmission is cheaper than buying a whole new car. So if you have a vehicle you like, and it's good, and there's just, repowering a vehicle is a good way to go.
As long as the frame holds up, yeah.
Especially if you're paying like $40,000-$50,000 for a car. My first house was $25,000. And that was back when you're getting like about $500 or $600 a month is when I was in the Army. And that was big bucks.
Yeah. Now you got to remember, if I buy a junker, it's got to be less than $8,000 in Illinois. Otherwise, they tax me to death.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's an awful law that they passed a few years ago. Yeah, if your car's more than $8,000, you got to pay state taxes on it.
Well, I'm sure. I know here in Vegas, in Nevada, I'm a vet. And veterans in Nevada get a tax discount, a tax exemption. So if there's any vets out there listening and you're in Nevada, go down to your county assessor and they can get you an exemption on like mobile homes and for your vehicles. It's not a whole lot, maybe talking about $100, $200, but every penny counts in my life, and so
better than a stick in the eye.
Yeah. And so just be aware of that, because I know a lot of us that aren't aware of it. And also, we have November 11th coming up, which is Veterans Day, and in Vegas, they know how to treat veterans, right? You can just about go anywhere in town, and they have a free meal special for you. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah, and you can eat all day, and for free. This one lady calls it a trick or treat for veterans. But if you look at some of the stuff we have to do, we appreciate it. We appreciate it, and we want to defend the country, too.
Yep.
So that's next month. This month you got Columbus Day coming up. I think that's next Monday. So anyway, is there any more questions for people here? Let's take a last look at that.
Okay.
Okay, how do I do this? Okay, now this is the NOEC.
NOEC, Nitric Oxide Exchange Chamber.
Okay. And this particular version basically goes to an ignition. You have your air intake. The air intake goes to a pipe, and you have 8 spark plugs that charges the air or whatever, changes in the nitric oxide. And you have your magnets, and then it goes right to the engine. Tesla talks a little bit about using nitrogen for fuel, and I didn't get a chance to go and read exactly what he was doing. But anytime you burn nitrogen, you're always going to have a nitric oxide in like the Tesla coil, And like what people don't realize is that your car ignition system, It was basically an 8-headed Tesla coil, in its most basic form. So so Tesla, did do some research in this area and that, and this is just, I think, another thing where technology and people are finally catching up with some of the ideas that Tesla espoused, even though it may not be a direct correlation, because I don't know if you've ever read The Problem of Increasing Human Energy, which
I can't say that I have, but I am familiar with Tesla's work.
Yeah, but that's where he was writing about nitrogen as a fuel, and maybe that's because you have too much fuel, because the nitrogen itself is being a fuel here, or the nitric oxide is the fuel, and not the hydrocarbons per se.
Well, the hydrocarbons are attracting more oxygen. That's what the magnets do. And so just like in any car.
And here you go. Here's a good comment. Nitrogen gives off 300 nanometers of UV light during combustion, which ionizes the nitrogen. Is running rich, can be easily accelerated by MHD or EHD accelerators from generators. So that's something you should put in your thing. Combustion.
Let me do this. There, I took a screenshot.
Screenshot yourself off. But anyway, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. So
you can't see me?
I can see you now.
Okay. Oh yeah, the screenshot was in the way.
You went off the air for a second.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah. So, the first step to come to something is start making plans for it, to come to the conference in August. You're coming down from the Chicago area. Pretty much, right?
We're about 3 hours south of Chicago. You know where Davenport, Iowa is?
Oh, yeah, I know where Davenport. Been through there a couple
We're
times.
right across the river from Davenport.
Quad Cities?
Yep, perfect.
Yep. Last time I went through there, I was driving from Colorado. I drove all the way from Des Moines to Davenport on a slate of ice there. There's nothing but ice. And I'd pull off. I couldn't get above 35 miles an hour. I pull off, get some coffee or something, get back on, and there'd be a massive accident right down at the where you get on at, So yeah, I remember Davenport.
Yeah, you don't come through that area during wintertime. Who knows what's going to happen then?
Yeah. Anyway, if nobody has anything, then we'll see you all next week, and we'll be in touch. Tom, keep in touch.
Thank you much for having me. I appreciate it.
And again, I'd like to remind everybody, don't forget the Biomed Expo. I'll be there, and I'll have books and tapes there, and magazines. And I'm hoping, do you do much writing, Tom?
Writing?
Yeah, you might want to write up something on this thing. I'm trying to get my magazine back up and running. Anyway, be at the Biomed Expo. And don't forget, we have the VODs. Go to TeslaTech.info, click on this image here, and it'll take you right to where you need to go. And I'll see all of you next week. And I think we're going to have Casey material next week. So anyway, you all have a great weekend, and thank you for being here. And thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Steve. Have a good week. Have a good rest.